Hello and welcome to Waylander's Wandering, and today, based on a question I was asked in a previous video, we're going to talk a little bit about dry brushing. To get straight into it, you will find that there are many different types of dry brush on the market. There are these flat ones, as offered by Citadel and Games Workshop. We'll also do a smaller round one that's quite soft. We have the army painter who do this angled brush, which is a very stiff bristle, which is quite nice for certain techniques, but again it's a flat brush. Just need a little bit of a wash there. They also do a smaller one, which again is a fairly stiff bristle and a rounded and a tapered end. And we have these also from the army painter from their masterclass range, which are big poofy round ones. I like to use these, but these other flatter ones do have their place in the hobby. Anyway, let's get rid of a couple of misconceptions first. Okay, I will be using this Vallejo gunmetal blue to start off with, so I'll put a spodge on my palette there, move that out of the way. Now, you will be looking at two specific effects with your dry brushing. You will want a smooth, more blended effect, or if you do it the other way, you'll get a much more textured, bitty effect, which is very good for terrain actually, but not so good for sort of your actual miniatures, your soldiers. The first thing I will do is, going off camera to my water, is wet the brush. Dab off as much of that water as you can on a piece of paper towel. Test it on the back of your hand. Does it feel wet? No. Does it feel cool to the touch? Again, no, because I dabbed off too much, so we'll wet it again. A little dab, and there, as you can see, we leave a slight sheen on the back of my hand. It now feels cool to the touch. So taking one of these barricades that we got with our Kill Team Into the Dark, we'll take a little bit of this paint, enough to sort of colour the end, work it onto the palette a little bit, and now using a buffing motion, which is a circular motion, we will start to apply it to barricade. And because we haven't removed a great deal of the paint, and we're not really pressing, we're just letting the bristles do the work, this circular motion leaves this sort of effect. So it colours all the high points and leaves all the low points. Okay, and this buffing motion works particularly well for this kind of terrain where the detail comes from sort of left, right, up and down, all directions. And just gently buff it on. Now, if we want a different effect, we will take, if we were doing a miniature like this Necron Warrior, we would again take our paint, work a bit of it into the bristles, clean it off, maybe test it on the back of the hand. That seems to be kind of the level of coverage I'm looking for. And this time we will do a downward motion over the entire miniature, not worrying that there are places that we simply won't be able to get into because of the nature of the construct. These will work as our shade, and this method will leave again the paint, but the underside of everything is now left in deeper shade because we didn't hit it with the brush. And at the top we can just put a bit of a bosh, all the top edges, and run it in. This because we're not taking much paint off and we are really running in from the top, or the buffing motion I showed on the barricade, is overbrushing. And overbrushing leaves sort of turn around this effect, where again we can see that the miniature has been covered but not in the shadows. I think I will change that gunmetal blue for a more vibrant colour so you can see it a little better. So I will clean my brush, because the last thing we want is all that blue showing, and I will get back to you when I've cleaned the brush. Now that the brush is clean, I know it still seems to be stained a little blue at the end there, but if you see, that is not leaving any pigment behind, so that is okay. And the brush is still moist and damp on the hand, but this time, because it should show a little better, we're going to use Iron Breaker from Citadel Colour. Again, we take a little bit on the end of the brush, get it off on the palette, work it into the bristles, and then taking a different Necron, we will again come down on the top of it, working down, and as you can see, it leaves an immediate all over coverage, but not in the recesses, which is the effect that we want. So it's a very super fast technique. As you can see, that is, in that very short amount of time, pretty much covered. And there we have the basics of overbrushing. So you get a little bit there into your page, case of that side. We can go up if we want to. And there we go. Our Necron Warrior is pretty much base coated, or at the very least all of the metallic parts are coloured. The bit in here that this brush is too darn big to get into, we could use our smaller dry brush to do that, but since I'm not actually painting these guys, I'm just doing it for the demonstration, we will not bother with that. So putting that away and moving on to a different technique with a different brush, I will now show you with the flatter brushes the effect that you get on these Star Wars Legion barricades. So I'm going to be using Pro Acryl Bolt Titanium White as ever. It tends to get a little bit blobby. Is it? What? No. Oh, there we go. Squidge your lamp out on the palette. And we're going this time, what we're going to do is take our kitchen towel, work it into the bristles as before, but we're going to use the kitchen towel to clean the brush head. This has the effect of removing the pigment that we don't want and wicking the moisture out of the paint. So again, if we try this on the back of our hand, this is okay, and using the downward motion, or actually we'll probably go left to right on this, using this sort of motion, we can then dry brush our barricade, which as you can see leaves a very, I don't know if you can see that on the camera actually, but it leaves a streaky, powdery finish, which will show as an effect when we come to the end of painting all our barricades. So get some more, clean it off on the paper towel and put it on. Now this will give a more weathered look rather than the smooth look that I've gone for on the Necrons and the Guillotine barricade. But again, drawing the moisture off And this is still kind of an overbrush, because I'm only taking as much paint off the brush as I was before. As you can see, because we've sucked all the moisture out of our brush, it leaves a very different finish. And to be honest, guys, I was saying, what else can I show you? I mean, as you can see, this leaves a kind of an edge highlight anyway, so that's useful if you're not very confident with edge highlighting. You can get an edge highlight with these brushes. I mean, this one's clean at the moment, but what you do is roll it across the edge like so, in this manner, just rolling it across. When you are dry brushing, you go for weight and very much control, the closer down to the bristles that you get. So this will give you more weight to your brush strokes. So these are heavier and will leave more pigment behind. Or alternatively, you move back away from the ferrule of the brush, and this gives you a kind of a sloppier feel, a looser feel, I should say. Because nobody likes it sloppy. And a lighter touch, which is the important part. I hope you're enjoying this really rather fast and loose, unplanned video. One thing I will say, dry brushing will sharpen any mould lines that you have inadvertently left on your miniatures, such as this one here. I mean, for this, because it's terrain and a barricade, kind of get away with it, it's okay. But on your actual tabletop gaming miniatures, maybe you'll want to try something a little different. So there we go. There's your barricade with the dry brush on. There's that barricade, which I will actually show you how to highlight dry brushing using this. And there's your Necron base coated. So let's move on to highlighting with this. Let's take a different brush again. Use this army painter one because we want the taper. I'm using this silver metallic, the iron breaker again, and again doing it on our palette rather than the tissue. We can just gently dash down using a very light stroke, and as you can see, fairly instantly you've now highlighted your kill team barricade. A little bit more on there. There we go. And there we are. I mean, these techniques are fairly easy. And for anyone who supports me through Ko-fi and has joined my Discord, you are more than welcome to hit me up for a video conference where I can go through these on a more one-to-one basis for an hour or half an hour or whatever, which is something that I offer to my Ko-fi supporters. And there we go, a nice, effective highlight. All nice and easy. So there we go. That's overbrushing and highlighting using dry brushes. I prefer this method on the wet palette to this because I mostly paint miniatures rather than terrain. But they're both extremely useful. And there we go. I think that's it from me for today. It's only a short and sweet video. I hope the things I've spoken about you find useful. I've been Waylander, you've been fantastic. I love your faces, and goodbye.